You and I have been given a purpose. We have been given a stewardship. We have been called into battle. We have a reason to live. We have a reason to die.
God is sovereign over everything, but he is worthy of praise, not just for the creation of the universe, but for the salvation of your soul.
Faith is not a creative thing, a meritorious thing. It's a receptive thing. Faith is not a creator, it's a beholder. It beholds the righteousness of Christ.
Faith will always move us to action, to a life of obedience, to a life of sacrifice, to a life of service, to a committed life that believes that the God who spoke the world out of nothingness is the same God who has promised you life abundant and life eternal, and his promises are true.
You are welcome to this sovereign Savior who has no to-do list by which you might convert his gift of savability into salvation, but who, by his efficacious atonement, has fully accomplished salvation, a salvation to which you need add nothing.
Our faith in who Christ claims to be is our first business.
Our primary assignment must never be compromised. We are called to faithfully preach the word.
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. Happy Wednesday, you guys. It has been so long. Mwah. I love you. I missed you guys so much. Seems like I haven't been live in a month of Sundays. Actually, it's been about maybe a little less than a week, but it feels like it's been forever. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the live chat. Those of you who are watching us on YouTube or on Rumble or on X and maybe even Facebook, welcome to all of our viewers, both near and far. I'm so grateful to be with you guys this evening. I was traveling this past weekend. Y'all, listen. Y'all know I'm from New York, right? But honey, let me tell you, it has been so long since I've been in cold temperatures that I was like, I'm not built for this. I'm weak. I'm a punk. Call me whatever you will, but I am not built for the cold. I was up in Detroit, literally a stone's throw away from Canada, and it was like 11 degrees. Like, it was just cold for no reason. Now, I was prepared. I bought a very heavy coat. I had gloves. I had all of the, appendages that you're supposed to have in cold weather. But I was just like, this is miserable. It was absolutely just very frigid temperatures. But I was so grateful to be there. I was able to connect with some of my Blexic people from back in the day. I was there in a support role for my client, Vince Everett Ellison. And while I was also there, you guys, I had an opportunity to sit down with a fellow YouTuber on the other side of the YouTube streets. I got to do an exclusive interview with Anton Daniels of the Anton Daniels, the Millionaire Morning Show. And I think it's Anton After Dark. They be talking about like grown folk stuff over there. But you guys, the files were so large from that interview. We had 3 camera angles and they're each like 20 gigs each. And so we are still not finished editing that content. But once that interview is edited, I promise I will premiere it here on the channel. And it was a wonderful discussion. Anton was a very hospitable guest. He opened up his entrepreneurial expertise to me, his YouTube expertise. And I really didn't go up there for that. I really just wanted to do the interview, to talk to a fellow YouTuber, but someone who promotes conservative values just in a different way. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about him and his origin story. And I was able to get that. And we just really had a really good time. And he's a real one. What you see is what you get. The person that you see on YouTube, he is that same person. And he doesn't gatekeep. Every question that I had about, just YouTube and content creation, he was just more than willing to share. In fact, I'll be making a second trip up there, this time in a business capacity, because we got to talk some business. And so I just wanted to fill you guys in. That was a wonderful experience this weekend. Then I came back home, and then trying to get back in the swing of things, it's just a struggle. But shout out to all of you. I'm glad that you watch Anton and you get value from his channel as well. I have a few announcements though. Before we get into tonight's live stream, we're going to be talking about a number of topics. We're going to talk a little bit about Joy Reid. We're going to talk a little bit about Jamal Bryant clapping back at the spooks who sit by the door, or who he's alleging were the spooks who sit by the door at the White House. And then we're also going to talk about a pastor that I've not done any content on. And it's not that he escaped my radar. It's just I really had no interest in mentioning this individual, but I'm going to mention him tonight because several people sent me a video and they want me to react to it. But before we do that, we have some housekeeping things we have to get out the way. First, I need you guys to like this video. Go ahead and get that out the way. Share it with your tribe. We're going to be talking about a number of topics tonight. But if you are in Georgia, there's some very, very important legislative information that I need to put in your ear for you to ponder. I received several messages this week from my contacts at Georgia Right to Life. And if you live in the state of Georgia, and you guys know I am an avid abolitionist. I am actively fighting for the abolition of abortion here in my state. And a part of that fight requires us obviously to be prayerful, to be gospel centered, and to lead with the gospel. But there are legislative things that we are actively doing because we are advocating for the lives of our preborn neighbors. And so what I wanted to bring to you guys' attention is there is a bill. This week is super important. House Bill 441 is actually about to gain some traction and get some attention. And so there's an event that I want to put on your radar if you're here in Georgia. One, my ministry friends over at G3, they are having a rally for Christians who are interested in rallying for the equal justice and protection of our preborn neighbors. So this upcoming Monday on March the 3rd, from 11 to 1:30 at Liberty Plaza. If you just go downtown, get off at Capitol Ave, bang a right, park over to the right. You cannot miss Liberty Plaza. You'll see the Liberty Bell and all of the signers from the state of Georgia who signed the Declaration of Independence. Liberty Plaza, they're going to be having a rally there. And we are gathering, one, to pray for equal justice and equal protection legislation in Georgia. We're praying for that. We also want to proclaim the biblical truth regarding the sanctity of human life. Like I told you guys, my activism flows from my biblical worldview. Saving babies is important to me, but the reason why I am passionate about this topic because I do believe it is a gospel issue. And so we do lead with the gospel as it relates to this topic, not for the sake of just being do-gooders and wanting to save babies. However, you have the moms. The moms need the gospel, and I believe the preaching and proclamation of the gospel is what pricks the dead sinner's heart and awakens them to the truth of what they're doing. It convicts them of sin, but it also makes them keenly aware not just of the sin of abortion, but just the fact that when you are dead in your sin and your trespasses, you are going to follow the pattern of this world, as Ephesians 2 teaches. So this rally proclaiming the biblical truth, but also it's to persuade lawmakers to support HB 441, which is a bill that seeks to fully abolish abortion in this state. There's some little known facts that I want you guys to be aware of, in that Georgia laws, as they currently stand, deny equal protection to the preborn in very blatant ways. So we have a heartbeat bill here. We do have a heartbeat bill. However, it's not enforced. And not only that, but HB 441, it would end legalized abortion in Georgia by providing every preborn child in the state with equal protection under the law at the moment of fertilization. So there's basically this loophole in Georgia law that we're trying to close. And this bill would save tens of thousands of babies and protect the vulnerable women and the girls from sex traffickers, the pimps, and the abusers who are using the legality of self-managed abortion to coerce mothers to abort their children. Statistically speaking, since our heartbeat bill, at least 30,856 Georgia preborn babies were killed as permitted by current Georgia law. So this idea that, oh, Georgia has a heartbeat bill, there's nothing else that needs to be done. I don't know what you Bible believing thumping Christians are talking about. That is simply not true. Babies are still murdered here. And then also another estimated 5,504 Georgia mothers legally perform self-managed abortions using abortion drugs, which can kill babies well into the second trimester. So what we're trying to do is close this loophole. And I want to give a huge shout out to Emory Donahue, who is the state representative who is filing this bill. He's proudly supporting it. He needs our prayers. But more importantly than that, I've included a link in the description box below where you can sign the petition and lend your support to this bill. Perhaps you can join us on Monday, March the 3rd, for this rally for the preborn. And then also on the 6th, later that week, I will be speaking at Liberty Plaza again for the Georgia Life Alliance. They're doing their annual March for Life. I will be there in a nonpartisan capacity, pleading for the lives of the unborn and expressing to Georgia constituents, not necessarily Republicans and not Democrats, but just appealing as a resident of this state. I'll be sharing my testimony of abortion so that women can know, and men alike, that there is redeeming hope and life through Christ if you are guilty of the sin of abortion. But not only that, you don't have to be guilty of that sin. There are resources and people willing and ready to help you to make another choice. Murdering your baby is not the end-all be-all. It is more. There are other options, resources, and people waiting to help you when you choose life. So I wanted to just bring that to you guys' attention. HB 441 this week is very, very important regarding that. And if you could come to the march on this Monday, March 3rd at 11 a.m. at Liberty Plaza, we covered your prayers as well as your support and your attendance. And then on March 6th, the March for Life rally. All right, so we got that out the way. Now we can go ahead and get into this content. Because it's been a while since I've been before you guys. And what I want to do tonight is I want to do a multi-topic show since it's been a while since I've been here. And the first thing I want to do is talk about what's on top of everyone's mind, which is this Joy Reid situation. So what I want to do is share with you guys a video. I want to share a video. And I wanted to talk about this Joy Reid situation because this situation wasn't lost on in many of us. Many of us have been watching Joy Reid's decline over, I don't know, I guess the past 4 years. Her Trump derangement syndrome has really hit an all-time high. And many people have been advocating for MSNBC to get her off the air because her racism and her race baiting and her just accusatory tone, everything is always a white person's fault. This has ultimately resulted in her losing her primetime spot because her ratings are just trash. That's just the truth. The ratings are just not that good. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna, and I don't want to exploit, a person losing their job. But from a biblical perspective, this has a lot to do with reaping what you sow. And so this is just an example, and it just happens to be a public one of someone losing their job, not because they're racist, but because they are a propagandist, and America overwhelmingly does not want to be told every single night that they are evil and they are racist simply because they bear white skin. People are just tired of hearing that. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to react to this video, and we're going to go ahead and get into the topic.
Told by him, so we'll see. Told by him.
That is not the right video. This is the video. This is the video that we're going to watch.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I say this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And that it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that the moment of guilt that I felt, that I went hard on so many issues, whether it was the Black Lives Matter issues of a young baby or a mom or a dad that was killed, or when we opened up people's eyes to the fact that Asian Americans were being targeted and not just Black folks, or went hard for immigrants who've done nothing but come to this country like my parents did and try to make a life and defended them. Or whether we've talked about what the president is doing that is subversive to the Constitution, that is injurious to our liberty, defending books that people find inconvenient, that Nicole Hannah-Jones put into our spirit, that we need to understand 1619 as the real founding of this country, whether it's talking about any of these issues, and yes, whether it's talking about Gaza and the fact that we as the American people have a right to object, to little babies being bombed. And where I come down on that is I'm not sorry. I am not sorry that I stood up for those things, because those things are of God. And I'm a church girl too, and those are the things that I was taught were of God. And so I'm not sorry. I'm just proud of my show. My show had value.
All right. So there was a lot said. There. I'm gonna go ahead and pull her down because I need to. There's a lot to engage with there. Yeah. So, okay, give me a second, you guys. Here's the deal with this Joy Reid situation. The human part of me, wants to, you never want to glory in someone's downfall, right? If a person's losing their job, that means they're losing their ability to earn an income. And so as a Christian, I gotta kind of navigate around this situation and I need to be honest. I can have compassion and feel bad that she has lost her job. But at the same time, there are some glaring issues that need to be pointed out, in where I can't allow my compassion for a person to overshadow the truth and what we're really dealing with. So today we got to cut through the noise, right? We have to expose the lies, because there were a lot of lies told there. And then what I want to do is I want to remind you guys that common sense still exists, even if MSNBC clearly missed the memo. So this whole analysis that I'm going to give, it's going to be a little different. It may be a little similar to what you've already heard other content creators say, but we're going to talk about this Joy Reid and MSNBC letting her go. And we're going to talk about it from the perspective, because MSNBC as a business, they finally figured out. And I don't think they've completely learned their lesson. I don't think that. But I do believe that they finally have figured out that you can't have someone on the air who perpetually wants to hold the condemnation of the vast majority of this country, of the perpetual condemnation of white people. You cannot build an entire platform on that and think it's going to be mainstream. You just can't do that. And so the victimhood propaganda, all of the race baiting, and like I said, the victimhood, MSNBC realized, not because people were necessarily writing in saying, hey, this show is trash, get it off the air. People showed you how they felt about this show, Joy, because they stopped watching, right? People tuned out. I am sure there were a huge swath of even liberals at some point who got exhausted by a lot of this rhetoric. So, of course, the professional outrage class, they are going to be out here screaming racism at the top of their lungs, because apparently Joy being fired couldn't possibly have anything to do with her dismal ratings, right? No, it must be white supremacists, and it must be a white supremacist conspiracy. And so I actually have a video pulled, and I'm going to break it down, because as always, there is a little biblical perspective to this madness. And so I'm trying to be careful in how I do it, but it's kind of hard not to talk about the elephant in the room. So I showed you the clip. Let's talk about what happened. This is the end of the readout. First, we need to start with the facts, right? MSNBC, in this desperate attempt to remain relevant, they are currently reshuffling their lineup. Kind of like CNN is realizing that too much Trump derangement syndrome is not good for business. MSNBC is doing the same thing. So the network is in serious decline. Their viewership has plummeted across the board, and Joy's show was no exception. Y'all, there are YouTubers out here that have better numbers than Joy Reid, and they don't get paid by a major network $3 million a year to do it. But she was being paid a whole lot of money, and there are YouTubers, just regular old Joes, sitting in their basement who had better viewership than Joy Reid. So that's the first thing. From a business perspective, the numbers don't lie. They just don't. According to reports, MSNBC, their primetime ratings were down nearly 53% by the end of last year. Can you imagine? Like, you're a business owner, and everything that you do is about making sure your audience, who is your customer, is well served, and that you get the results that are profitable. If you start experiencing a 53% decline, at some point you like, okay, this gotta sink in. Let that sink in. MSNBC, they were hemorrhaging viewers like the woman with the issue of blood in the Bible. That woman was bleeding for 7 years. And MSNBC, they too have been bleeding out for a minute. The writing is on the wall. It's been a sinking ship over there. And instead of grabbing a lifeboat and Joy getting a clue and clearing up her racist rhetoric, Joy Reid decided to keep ranting about imaginary racism. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, but half of her rhetoric, she was just making it up and inserting racism where none existed. So you had white supremacy and everything was Republicans' fault. It was very one-sided. It was a lot of propaganda, and it almost seemed as if she was paid not to be a journalist, but to be a propagandist. And so when 53% of your viewership checks out, and then we hear you, I'm sorry you lost your job, but to be out here crying, talking about my show had value, the question you need to ask is value to who? Value to who? You might believe within your heart of hearts that what you were doing was valuable. But to say that my show had value, you need a follow-up question and to say to who? If it wasn't to the vast majority of America and they didn't lend their support by watching your show in exchange for the value you were providing, you need to ask yourself, perhaps the value that you perceive it to be is value to you. The marketplace said different. And so I thought it was funny because Rachel Maddow, she's the lesbian counterpart on the white side of MSNBC. She came out practically weeping and calling calling MSNBC's decision. What she said was she called it troubling. Let me see if I pull that clip. I think I have that clip so y'all can hear it. Yes, I have it. So let's give me a second. Let me get it pulled up. And let's do Rachel Maddow. I want y'all to hear what she had to say. Because I'm gonna provide some balanced commentary to piggyback off of what Rachel is about to say here.
An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Readout, ended tonight. And Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take. I am 51 years old. I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And I have had so many different kinds of jobs, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
Okay. So Rachel Maddow here, she claims she's not weeping. Maybe I was just being a little hyperbolic by saying that she's weeping. But she does call MSNBC's decision troubling. In my opinion, I'm like, no, what's troubling were Joy Reid's ratings. That's why they fired her racist behind. Right? I'm sorry. The math was simply not mathing. Okay? So she says that it was troubling. And then she goes on about how much she loves her, all of these wonderful platitudes. And I'm like, that's nice. That's nice. Here's my issue with the left overwhelmingly. They major in a whole lot of emotional platitudes. It's always a lot of emotion. But when you sit and tell them, the math is not mathing. 53% of the viewership is gone, and we don't know if we'll ever get them back. How do you have the nerve? How do you have the nerve to imply that the reason why MSNBC made the decision that they made is because of race? Rachel mentioned, she said, there are non-white individuals. No, she mentioned that 2 non-white individuals were being let go or whatever. She didn't specify who she was talking about. So you have her, then you had Keith Olbermann, yes, that lunatic, calling this company restructuring racist. And I'm like, the nerve of these 2 white liberals. These are 2 of the wokest white liberals sitting on MSNBC, sitting on their very network where they are still barely gainfully employed themselves, calling it racist. And I find it funny that neither one of these individuals, in a spirit of solidarity and support for their favorite black girl BFF, neither one of them quit their jobs in protest. Since you think it's so unfair and you think they're making a mistake, you ain't have no problem virtue signaling and hurling the accusation of racism toward the network where you are still collecting a check. How dare you? How dare you? This is why MSNBC is tanking, because you have rhetoric from this little lesbian, rhetoric from Joy Reid, and then all of the other race baiting, race trading, either they're white liberals or the black Jerome Crow Negroes, and they wonder why America is tired of this. America is tired. And let's not forget, you got the race hustlers on social media, right? You got the race hustlers on social media are doing the exact same thing. They are immediately accusing MSNBC of trying to whitewash their lineup. Never mind the fact that they're replacing Joy with other non-white hosts. No, granted, I disagree with their choice because Simone Sanders is not that much different. It's just another brand of racist, race trading, melanated Marxism. But it doesn't matter. Instead of them taking a look at the numbers and saying, Joy's numbers are not looking good. Like, they haven't looked good in a while. Maybe we should tell her. If you love her so much, Rachel Maddow, why you ain't pull it aside and have a conversation? Say, you know what, maybe telling white people that they are racist, like every night, maybe it's not a good growth strategy. Maybe you should be a little bit more balanced in your journalism, if that's what you're calling it. I don't call it journalism, I call it propaganda. But they didn't do that. None of them ever do any self-examination. Here's what I wanted to mention. Joy has a serious lack of self-awareness. And a prime example of this self-awareness is when she talked about how she wasn't going to apologize for the fact that she went hard on several topics. And one of those topics that she went hard on that was completely embarrassing and showed us who she really was is when she talked about, she claimed that the removal of certain books. She didn't talk about how they was freak nasty perverse books, and she doubled down and defended that foolishness as if it was good and right. And how her guest is saying, are we serious right now? You know darn well that these books are targeting young children by putting sexually perverse ideas in their mind and teaching them things that have no business in the school. And Joy Reid defended that mess. And then she doubled down in the next breath talking about, she's a church girl and these things were of God. I'm like, what Christianity are you subscribing to? Because it ain't the God of the Bible. None of the things that Joy Reid was actively pushing as propaganda were righteous things that the Lord would approve of. I'm like, sis, I really wish you would have left the Lord out of this, because this about to go left real quick. It's about to go left real quick. She talked about that. Then she talked about babies in Gaza, and how America had a right to be upset. I said, wait a minute. You want to whine and cry and be woe is me about babies in Gaza, which you should. None of us were pleased with the bloodshed in Gaza, but you got bloodshed happening right here on American soil. It's called Black women exterminating their progeny in their womb, and you are silent on that. Why? Because you believe that we should have a right to do that when the people you claim to love, Black people, because ain't you one of the pro-blackity blacks, we're beyond the rate of replacement. We never hear you talk about restoring the Black family. You got a Black husband. You got 3 Black babies, but we never hear you talk about what can be done to strengthen the Black family. Instead, you want to push sexual perversion and baby murder. And then in the next breath, claim that it's all about your people. No, Joy. Those things are not of God. You going to a church and being a part of the church of the Lord Jesus are not the same thing. And so I found it very interesting, her lack of self-awareness. And now she's crying. She's crying because I get it. When you make $3 million, I have no concept what that kind of money is like. I ain't never made $3 million at one time. So the idea that you make $3 million and then they offer you a pay cut and you like, shoot, $3 million to $500,000, what I'm supposed to do with that? The self-awareness should kick in and say, what are my superiors telling me about my content that I could make some adjustments and pivot to protect my job? But instead, nope. She went full bore in her Trump derangement syndrome, her lies, her propaganda, pushing a particular narrative. And the American people, you know what they did? They were like, we're not watching this. We're not watching. Contrary to popular opinion, Joy, you are not the center of the universe, and everybody, all things Black, everybody don't want to hear that all the time, especially when it's unbalanced and it's unfair criticism. It just is. Her content was very unbalanced. It was very left-leaning, and it was disingenuous. She did not engage in a meaningful way with her opposition. She never conceded the argument. She would always try to push the conversation in the direction she wanted it to go with and never engage in a meaningful way with the arguments that were actually presented. So we don't respect you as an actual journalist. We don't. Here's what I want to point out. See, in the world of the progressive left, if a Black woman loses her job, it must be racism. It can't be because she's insufferable. Oh, no, it can't be that. You know, it can't be because people get sick and tired of the nonsense that she spewed nightly. No. How could that possibly be it? It has to be oppression. You making $3 million has to be oppression. The ability to get on a network, to make $3 million, and to be overtly racist and be unchecked, that's oppression. I need that kind of oppression. I need that. Even though everyone can see, read, and interpret the ratings of Joy's show, she and the people who claim to love her refused to tell that woman the truth. And this is why these darn liberals keep banging their heads against the wall. They have zero self-awareness. They're completely out of touch with reality. And they think that everyone in the world thinks progressive leftist lunatic. They think we all think that way. Joy wasn't fired because of her racism. She was fired probably because of her racism and because she wasn't good at her job, period. If you can't keep an audience engaged to where they are looking forward to tuning into you every single night, nobody's going to pay you $3 million just because of the symbolism of it all. They're not. Her show was whack. It was whack and it was racist. There, I said it. I said I was going to try to be nice, but shoot, it was super whack, super woke, and super racist. So, ain't but so many ways I could say that. But speaking of racism, let's talk about Joy's own track record, right? We can talk about her own track record. Perhaps this will jog her memory so that she can get a better understanding of why she was let go, right? Because this is the same woman. She called Uncle Clarence Thomas and Uncle Clarence, right? Because he done told the leftist line. I want you guys to take a look at a clip that I'm going to play. Give me a second. I got to get it queued up. I ain't used to playing all these clips like this, so let's see. Here we go. Listen to this, y'all.
bowled by him. So we'll see.
Well, and the Supreme Court. And he mentioned the Supreme Court and was very specific about that. And he did telegraph
as if he can just take the election, call it over,
right,
announce that there won't be any more voting, and that the Supreme Court will take over. That's not how it works.
It's not exactly clear that we can trust Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh and these others not to be just like Bill Barr. And so I think what scares people is that if he decides to do something that it legally makes no sense, and you're right, but Mr. Bauer is ready for him. But if somehow they manage to stumble into the Supreme Court, do any of you guys trust Uncle Clarence and Amy Coney Barrett and those guys to actually follow the letter of the law? No. I mean, it is a completely politicized Supreme Court that you can't just trust that they're going to do the right thing. Now, so far, the courts have actually been pretty good. So we'll see.
Brian.
I would only say that.
All right, y'all, this is the same woman who constantly, y'all heard it, the clip. She called Clarence Thomas Uncle Clarence. See, they think it's okay to hurl these pejoratives against people who look like them, who don't think like them, because in their minds, blackness equates to ideological homogeneity. If we think the same way, oh, then yes, you are black and we are black, we're the same. But if you're black and this person's black and you have a fundamental difference in worldview, oh, you not black. You ain't like us, right? This the same woman who constantly demonized white people on the air. And then let's not forget her hilarious attempt at revisionist history. When she said, I should have pulled the clip, she said that Republicans have always been the party of racism. There's that lack of self-awareness again. These Democrats, these leftists, I'm like, y'all you don't know who you are ideologically, because the idea that the Republicans have always been the party of racism, when for over 200 years, y'all have been the party of slavery, Jim Crow, the KKK, subjugation. I mean, I'm serious. I'm like, are you kidding me? They just lie. Joy built her career off of hating people who don't agree with her. She's demonized Christians, yet claiming to be a Christian. She claims to be a person of faith. She trashed conservatives. And then she made a living off of stoking racial division. Well, that may have been cool when people were out here high off of George Floyd, whatever he was high off of, all that hopium and all that white guilt. But now that people are awake and they realize that much of what the left has been lying about, they are awoke to that, the chickens have come home to roost. And I'm sorry. I understand having empathy for a person who has lost their job, but I don't feel sorry for her because she made $3 million a year being evil and hateful, pushing some of the most divisive rhetoric of the decade. Nah, I'm sorry. Not today, Satan. I understand. My thing is, if you're that valuable, according to you, then you should have no problems pivoting and then finding gainful employment somewhere else. But here's the truth. Just like Don Lemon, who really thought he was more valuable than he was, and now he out here, he a TikTok star. Joy Reid is going to find that without the backing of MSNBC, she doesn't have a fan base. She doesn't have a group of people who are ride or die Joy Reid fans in mass to have substantiated and supported a $3 million salary. She doesn't have the numbers. And what a lot of these leftists are going to realize is that the population of people who want to join you in your hate fest of hating half of the country, it's real small. I know they loud and it makes it seem like it's a whole lot of them. It's a real small segment of the community of the American population that actually gains glory and revels in this kind of hatred. The vast majority of everyday Americans, one, we out here busy working, trying to take care of our families, and we don't want to continue to live in this divisive nation where racism is top of mind. Like everywhere we go, we got to look out for it because it's going to jump on you. And if it jump on you, once it's on you, you can't get it off. if Joy really believed in accountability, she'd apologize for the actual racism that she spewed on air for years. She would at least admit that, I've alienated more than half of the country. I've caused people to tune out. I was just a little unbalanced, right? But of course, that's not how this works. It's not how this works, because in Joy's world, only white people can be racist. And Black liberals like her, they're just the truth tellers, right? And I'm here to say, I'm about to wrap this up, but no, Joy. Black people like Joy Reid, Roland Martin, Tiffany Cross, Jamel Hill, and others, those are a bunch of melanated, Marxist-minded Negroes who make a living off of race hustling. And now I guess this was just her turn, because they done fired Jamel Hill, Tiffany Cross, all those other chicks. They all lost their job, and it was just her turn. And MSNBC is they just told her the truth. And the truth is that her show was a disaster. It was hot garbage, stir-fried foolishness, marinated in dumb, just a hot mess. The ratings proved it. And so let's go ahead and just bring this full circle with a little biblical admonition of sorts. What I want to do now is just highlight a few verses and bring this full circle with a biblical perspective, because y'all know we don't just talk. We talk about the culture here, but we got to bring it back to the word of God. So Galatians 6 verse 7 says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap." I'm bringing that up because Joy spent years sowing division and bitterness and unrighteous hatred toward other image bearers who did not look like her. And when I say unrighteous hatred, I'm saying we are to hate the things that the Lord hates and love the things that the Lord loves. And unrighteous hatred is you're spewing hatred toward other image bearers that's baseless. You've not proven this. You've attempted to discern the thoughts and the hearts of others on the basis of an external metric, something dermal. Oh, because they're white, because they're male, it must be misogyny. It must be racism. It must be sexism. People are tired of that. And so she built her platform on lies, slander, and this endless supply of victimhood. And now she's reaping what she sowed, out here on the internet crying, claiming that her show had value. And like I said, my question to her is, valuable to who? To who? She used her influence to tear down people instead of saying, okay, we disagree. Let's use journalistic integrity and engage in a meaningful discussion. No, she wasn't a journalist. She was a propagandist. She came with an agenda, and she served effectively in her role as part of the Afrostocracy pundit class. That's what I'll call her. She's part of the Afrostocracy pundit class. And now, because the narrative that she was pushing is no longer profitable, unfortunately, MSNBC, they are discarding her. They discarding her like old fish grease. This is what happens when you base your entire career on deception and propaganda, trying to coerce people to buy into a particular narrative. And now that narrative is no longer the prevailing narrative. Eventually, the house of cards collapses. Last verse, Proverbs 16:18. Also, it tells us that pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. It's hard. Joy was prideful. Okay. She believed that she was untouchable. And I get it. When you're making $3 million, I'd be like, what? When you make $3 million a year and you aren't even that talented, I can see how a little pride can make you think a little bit more of yourself. You feeling yourself. Listen, if I'm making $3 million, it's going to be some days I'm feeling myself. I'm not too proud to admit that. Money changes people. That's why you need people in your life who be like, listen, I knew you when you was on there with them raggedy little hoodies okay, and your hair, wasn't looking all that hot. I remember you when. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just need people that love you enough to be like, you need to pipe down, Macaulay, okay? All right, now, you still you. The point I'm making is I can see how a little pride, it can make you start feeling yourself. We're going to allow room for that. You just do. Don't act like if you start making $3 million that you're going to have a season where you be like, I don't know what happened. I lost myself, but I'm back, right? Because the people in your life are holding you accountable. She didn't have that. If y'all notice, do y'all remember in the clip when she was crying, the gentleman that pulled up, I've Googled and I've seen pictures of her husband. Y'all, I think that was her husband. There's no way my husband is going to let me be crying about losing my job like that and hand me a tissue and then just walk off. He going to be like, no. Turn the camera off. We're not doing this. You're better than this. You lost your job, but this is not the end of the world. You are not about to cry and get on here like you a victim. Pull yourself together. Y'all think that was her man who was just like, here you go. She's like, thank you. That's when the people in your life don't love you. Like I said, you start to get a little prideful. You start feeling yourself. I get it. But she thought that her constant race baiting would keep her secure at MSNBC forever, as opposed to looking at the writing on the wall and the warning signs that kept saying, America doesn't like this. They're pushing back. We need to pivot. That's how you add value to an organization. It's one thing, you have a primetime show in a nice slot. When you start seeing the tide shift, that's when it's time for you to humble yourself and you get on air and you say, well, you know what, America? Since I want to be a valuable voice in primetime mainstream news, we need to acknowledge that Donald Trump has won the presidency. And I've been very vocal on how I disagree with his politics. But in an effort to unify this country, we're going to provide some balanced coverage so that we can move forward as a nation. You could still be a liberal, Joy, but you would have secured your job and more people would have been attracted to your show if they're like, Joy turning over a new leaf. Like, she actually gave us some news and it wasn't all of this one-sided political commentary. She was fair to her guests, but no, pride always comes before the fall. So here we are, or should I say, there she goes, because they done showed her the door and now she is gone. So anyway, we don't need to shed tears for Joy Reid. She's going to be fine. She's providing value, so she'll find another way to provide value. She'll probably land a book deal or start a podcast that no one listens to, or make some guest appearance on The View with the rest of the cackling hens. And maybe she'll turn into a TikTok sensation like Don Lemon. I don't know. But this whole situation is a perfect example of why the left is losing the culture war. They're so disconnected from reality, and they refuse to acknowledge when their own failures are self-inflicted. Joy's show tanked because it was garbage, okay? Not because of racism. No. Where's the racism? Simone Sanders is a black woman and about to take her spot. They're probably going to give Simone some rope so she can hang herself too. If she don't tone down that racist rhetoric, she going to find herself right there where Joy is, in the unemployment line. MSNBC did not fire her because she was black. They fired her because she wasn't worth keeping. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. No one was watching. And nobody was watching that mess. So for all the race baiters screaming, it was racism and we need to do a petition. And this why we need black media. Newsflash, y'all tried that. You tried having an all-black network and black folks did not overwhelmingly support it. They didn't. We've been here before. Here's my message to the left. You claim this country hates you. You claim that they'll never love you. I don't know why you need people to love you, but let's just go with the narrative. Let's just go with it. If these people hate you so much, why are you always forcing and trying to force and insert yourself into their spaces anyway? Which one is it? You either want your own stuff or you're going to demand that they give you access to their stuff, and you ain't never satisfied. You're always screaming how life is unfair. Listen, take notes. Y'all can have 1 million Zoom calls. You can start as many petitions as you want to. Boycotts, have at it. No one's listening to you, okay? Maybe people are just finally waking up to the grift. And now you actually have to create content of substance that resonates with more people. It's real simple. So, all right. Why is this camera? What's going on with my camera, son? Okay, thank you. It was on there for a really long time. Let's go ahead and get to some super chats. Oh, did I tell y'all about the G3 conference? Let me get this announcement. G3 conference is this fall in September 11th through the 13th. If you have not already registered, you will want to go ahead. You're not going to want to miss this conference. I have a special promo code, so you can save yourself 20%. You can save 20% using my promo code G3SOTP. If you go to g3men.org/faith and register for the conference, I will be there this fall. At the beginning of every show, I play a trailer of the conference. If you are just interested in some God-honoring preaching, meeting other wonderful content creators and Christians from all over the country, and you are like, listen, I want to hear some doctrinally sound preaching and invest in my spiritual growth by way of doing some in-person discipleship with individuals who you don't necessarily go to church with. The G3 conference is for you. This year's theme is faith. And I'm highlighting today that faith strengthens. So each show, I will show you guys a different graphic and an exhortation about faith. But before I forget, I wanted to mention the G3 conference taking place this fall here in Atlanta, Georgia at the Georgia World Congress Center. 20% off using my code G3SOTP. Awesome. All right. Now let's get to some super chats. Sorry, you guys. Here we go. Derek said, church girl, I think not. Thank you, Brother Derek, so much for that super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Derek is our resident pastoral comedian. He has such a shepherd's heart, and he has no problem calling a spade a spade. You are absolutely right, Derek. Joy, I'm finding that progressive leftists, they have a different definition of what it means to be part of the church and to be a Christian. And we're actually going to talk about that in this next segment when I talk about, we're going to leave Jamal for last. We're going to talk about, these people have a different religion, and it has a different Jesus that does not save, and it comes with a different gospel, and its emphasis is on every other thing other than the sufficiency and the supremacy of Christ. Okay? But thank you, Brother Derek. We have K-Town. K-Town sends a $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, K-Town, for your support on this live stream. I greatly appreciate it. A super sticker is different than a super chat in that it sends a nice little character just to show love and support for the live stream. So thank you so much for that this evening. Derek is back. Derek, behave. Derek says, someone married her? A black man? Really? Listen. All right, Derek. All right. Listen. Yes. Joy's been married for quite some time. They share 3 children together. And he is a black man. He is a black man. I've seen pictures of him. You know, he's not that bad looking of a guy. But, you know, maybe he married Joy for her brain. She is a Harvard graduate. You know, she's not stupid. She might play, you know, stupid on TV, but I'm pretty sure she's smart. And he was in love with her brain or something. I don't know. But Derek, you need to stop. Don't start with me tonight. Okay, sir? Listen. He said, shocked she is married to a black man. Not common. I agree. Much like most of the black lesbians have white female lesbians as their wives, a lot of these black liberals typically will go outside of their race and marry someone else. But no, he's a black guy. And they make a lovely couple. Listen, my issues with MSNBC in general is the contempt they show for black people by not in what they say, but it's deeper than what they say. I'm gonna say this, y'all gonna feel some sort of kind of way about it, but oh well. It is what you ain't gotta like it, but it don't make it any less true. Media is visual, okay? Media is visual. And people like looking at pretty things. They like looking at attractive things that make their eye dance, things that make them smile. It's just like babies. Babies like they have a visceral reaction to pretty faces versus faces that are not so much, right? I don't understand. It's almost like MSNBC goes out of their way to find the least attractive representation of black people and then to exploit us. It's like they're doing it on purpose. And listen, I don't know if y'all are following Vince Everett Ellison, but he did a video last week talking about how the left likes us big, bald, and bold, right? It's almost like they want to elevate the characteristics that you would think would be a pejorative, right? So they're looking for the most overweight. They're looking for the one who is just going out of her way to just not look her best. Out of all of the black women that they could platform, they go and find the most ratchet and the least attractive and the bald-headed. And then they show it to America because they're like, this is who they are. And it bothers me. And it has nothing to do with a standard of beauty. It has more to do with, in media, media is visual. You couldn't find nobody attractive. Like, all of us like looking at pretty things. Let's take Fox, for example. And I'm using this as an example because it's the only example that readily comes to mind. When you watch Fox, all of the women on there, for the most part, save maybe one, are attractive, well-poised, put together, super cute. Fox goes out of its way. They've got glass desks. They want you to see what the news anchors are wearing. You're going to see red bottoms. You're going to see Jimmy Choos. You're going to see Gucci shoes. These chicks are just fly. Kaylee McEnany, the Campagno girl. They're all just cute. Why? Because just because it's the news, you ain't got to look like you've been beat with an ugly stick. We want to see pretty people on TV. It's that simple. So because they know that, and they know media is visual and it needs to be optically pleasing, why is it when it comes to black women, they got to find all of us, why we all bald-headed? You can find nobody with some hair. Why we all got to have bad weaves? It just bothers me that they go out of their way to be like, let's get the least attractive one and we're going to give her a show. I'm just saying. Because at some point, I'd be lying if I didn't say that it does impact viewership. It does. People are watching Fox because they don't want to see Rachel Maddow. They don't want to see a masculine white liberal woman rant and rave and just we don't want to see that. You couldn't find some cute little. Listen, y'all ain't gotta like this. I'm sorry. I know y'all gonna feel some sort of kind of way about it, but it is what it is. It is visual. Call it superficial. I call it real. We don't want to see a bunch of lesbians, okay, that are bald headed. We don't. And that's just a fact. It plays into it. This is why on ESPN and on Fox Sports, I don't even like the fact that they have all of these female anchors, but at least they're cute. They're there for a reason. You need to have something to look at. If people want. All right, I've said enough. Anyway, let's move on to this other story. Y'all, this was the strangest story. This next story was really strange to me. It was really strange. Let me show it to you guys. Hold on. First, I gotta find it. Where is it? This story was really strange. Someone sent it to me, and I was just like, say what now? Here we go. All right. This is kind of small, so that's as big as I could make it. But this story was so strange because I can't say I've never seen anything quite like this before. I have, but not this blatant and not this obvious. And after I show you guys the clip, I'm going to share with you exactly what you're watching. I did some research on this particular pastor, and I know who he is, but this was just weird. This was just weird. I don't even know what to say about this one other than we just be doing too darn much. We just be doing too darn much. It's that simple. Like, let me show you how this clip, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
In the house. To Trinity, none other than Kendrick Lamar. But there's a video to introduce Kendrick at this moment. Get the video.
Kendrick Lamar here. Kendrick Lamar here.
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar here. Am I good? Okay. I don't know. Okay. Kendrick Lamar here. I curated original songs on the soundtrack of the 2018 film Black Panther, earning an Academy Award nomination. This year, I won 5 Grammys, and the Super Bowl halftime show broke domestic viewership records. This is Black history, y'all. This is my opera.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kendrick Lamar, backed up by the Lamar choreographed team. Serena in the house.
All right. Y'all had to pause this because I don't even know what's happening. I mean, I know what's happening, but I'm trying to understand like who asked for this. And then the more I thought about it, I said, okay, I can explain a little bit about what you're witnessing and what's happening. So this is a church up in Chicago, Illinois. It is Trinity United Church of Christ. And just for some context and reference, this church was actually Obama's church when he was going or allegedly going. I don't know if you guys remember Jeremiah Wright, goddamn America, that whole situation during the Obama campaign, during his first presidential run. That's this church. Well, this church is now pastored by Otis Moss III, who, if I'm not mistaken, I think Otis went to Morehouse. Oh, what a shame. But Otis is the pastor of this church. And let me give you guys some fun facts. So obviously, I just said Jeremiah Wright is the former pastor. This is Trinity United Church of Christ, which is Obama's former church. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're working with here. And let me just read you guys. This is a Black History celebration on the Lord's Day in the middle of a Sunday worship service. In the middle of a Sunday worship service, you have a reenactment of, or should I say, it's a recognition of notable Black people who've accomplished something of importance. And the pastor thought it was a good idea to take time out of the Lord's Day and then to highlight these Black historical figures. When we're supposed to be worshiping the one true God, he wanted to pause and do this. But it's not just that. It's the fact that he actually has members of the church. They are dressed up and they are in character as a multiple of different people. Stevie Wonder, the chick in the beginning of the video with the white on, that's supposed to be Beyonce. Why are we saying Beyonce? Listen, I'm just reporting. That's supposed to be Beyonce. Then you had Kendrick Lamar is who this gentleman is supposed to be. And this is supposed to be a reenactment of the Super Bowl. And then they got the little dancers, these poor children. And then you had the Serena character come in and crip walk in the church celebrating gang culture. Anyway, let me give you guys a fun fact. I'm going to read from Dr. Moss's bio. And when I read this, it's going to explain in greater detail exactly what we're working with here. So from his bio, it says, Dr. Moss preaches a theology of liberation rooted in a Black spirituality of love and justice. His passion for African American culture and history, combined with a deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop, have culminated in a unique message of hope and healing through a jazz narrative on American democracy. Quite never read a bio from a pastor that discussed typically, a pastor will, talk about his conversion of when he came to the Lord, maybe where he went to seminary, and that his ultimate job is pointing people to Christ, who's the author and finisher of his faith. No, not Dr. Moss. Dr. Moss wanted you to know that he preaches a theology of liberation. Is that key word there? Rooted in a Black spirituality of love and justice. Now, I don't know what Bible he is reading, but my Bible, nowhere on its pages of Holy Writ do we ever learn of a theology of Black spirituality in the scriptures. In fact, it is sinful to show partiality on the basis of ethnicity for any reason. Why? Because our reconciliation to God in Christ has reconciled us to one another, other image bearers. And so I don't know how you preach a gospel of reconciliation when your theology is rooted in Black spirituality of love and justice. I mean, can you imagine, like, if a white pastor had a part of his bio that Dr. Johnson preaches a theology of liberation rooted in white spirituality of love and justice? Like, how does that work? The inverse of that. Like, can we do that in good faith, or would that be a problem? I think it would be a problem. And then it says, because he has a passion for African American culture and history, combined with a deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop, Basically, what he's done is he's created, this is my opinion based on what he said. Okay, I'm not making this up. I just read from his bio. If I read, it says, his passion for African American culture and history combined with a deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop have culminated in a unique message. There's that another gospel of healing through a jazz narrative on American democracy. That is not the gospel of Christ. You don't get to reinvent the gospel and filter the gospel of Christ through the lens of the things that you are passionate about. I get it. You are free to love Black American, African American history, arts, the culture, jazz, hip hop. The problem is, don't nobody care about what's important to you. You are supposed to be a preacher of the gospel of Jesus. This, my friends, is a different gospel. You don't get to create. This is synergism. Synergism is where you taking some of this and some of that, and then you're putting it together and you're creating an amalgamation of another religion. This isn't Christianity. Never are we told to reinvent the gospel or reimagine a gospel and teach it, preach it, or live it through a different lens. A lens of, because I like jazz and hip hop. Therefore, the way I'm going to teach the people is I'm going to create this unique message of hope and healing. I'm sorry. The gospel of Christ is sufficient all by itself. It doesn't need you to put your own little personal spin on it. Okay? Like, it is the efficacious work of what Christ accomplished on the cross. Is it not powerful enough to save and raise the dead sinner's heart to newness of life, or does it need something else? It needs jazz and hip hop, and then you put it all together to create a unique message. We don't want a unique message. The Christian is admonished to hold fast to the apostles' teaching, right? Like when we gather on Sunday, we are supposed to be dedicated and to devote ourselves to the apostles' teaching, the breaking of bread, the praying of prayers. That's why we gather. We don't gather for this. Whatever this is ethnic narcissism on steroids. That's what this is. This is, I am so absorbed and self-absorbed, and the idol of my blackness is so great that I'm blinded. I am too blinded by the truth of the gospel because there ain't no room for the gospel of Christ because it's too rooted in the blackness. That's what this is. He said it himself. He preaches through this lens and puts a different spin on American democracy. What the heck does American democracy have to do with the gospel of Jesus? You have no book, chapter, or verse to substantiate this foolishness, but yet here we are. Here's what I'd like to say about this. I'm going to let it play some more just for the entertainment factor of it all. But Jesus didn't come with a separate message for Black people. I know we like to think that our struggle through the Middle Passage and through the transatlantic slave trade and through the years of the oppression of of slavery in this country requires us to have some unique message of hope and healing. It doesn't. Either the gospel saves to the uttermost or it doesn't. Either you are a sinner in need of a savior like every other people group on the face of the earth, or you don't. We don't need a special message. We don't need the gospel filtered through a lens of ethnicity or culture or hip hop or the arts in order for it to save you. In fact, that is a perversion of the gospel. That is a distortion. What did Galatians 1, he says that I am astonished that you are so quickly turning away to another gospel as if there's another. Man, I don't want to misquote it. Let me quote it. When the Apostle Paul is talking to the Judaizers about them being bewitched, He says, I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of our God, of Christ, and turning to a different gospel. Not that there is another one, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. And then listen to what Paul says. He says, but even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. And then in case the people in the back who ain't hear him, Apostle Paul says, as we have said it before, so now I say it again. If anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. From this man's own website, he is telling you this is a different gospel because it's culminating in a unique message. I don't want a unique message. I want the one that was handed down by the prophets and the apostles with the finished work of Jesus. That's the one I want. I don't want this blackness. I don't want a gospel bathed in blackness. It can't save me. I love being black. There are some cultural distinctives that black people have that other people can't mimic even if they want to. The problem is we are not afforded that unique ethnic expression as something to glory in. Since when do we glory in our flesh like this? On the Lord's Day in the church, if white people did this in the spirit of celebrating whiteness, these folks they'd be tearing their clothes off, burning them in effigy, because they would lose their minds. Why is it that we are allowed to do this? Why is it that we're allowed to do this? Here's the issue. The Bible speaks of there's no black spirituality. This is another religion. This is not the Christian faith. I looked on Trinity United's website. They are a member of the Progressive National Baptist Convention. So that lets you know already that they're already holding to a different gospel. But when you go to the church's website, the reason why they are doing this is because in their religion, this is not Christianity, in this religion, your blackness is the primary thing from which you view the world and you see all things. It's through the lens of oppression and through the lens of liberation. And it is so bad. Let me show you how bad it is. Let me show y'all this. Can y'all see that? Hold on. Give me a second. Ugh. Hold on. Give me a second. All right. Y'all see this? I went to their website because I'm like, these people have really lost their minds. I was like, I get it. Listen, Black History comes every year, Black History Month. And I think Black people have made some of the most amazing, notable contributions to make this country flourish. And by all means, we should acknowledge them. I don't know why we need a month for that. We should be able to just do that every day. When you function in your freedom and you are fully assimilated as a citizen of this country and you recognize that this is your country, you don't obsess so much about, and you don't spend a whole lot of time trying to segregate yourself and uplift yourself because you are secure in who you are. You are secure in, your blackness, if that's what you want to call it. Like, you don't need to have it reaffirmed every day as if you're going to forget tomorrow that you're Black. You function in your freedom and you know that you have access to the rights and privileges of every other citizen in this country. And when you feel that you don't, you take that grievance up legislatively, and there are all of these things afforded to us via the Constitution that if you have a grievance, you can take it up legislatively. You can litigate the matter and do all the things that you feel are necessary to demonstrate that to demonstrate that your rights have been violated. The issue that I have is two issues here. One, why is this happening in a church? And two, If a person of another ethnicity can't come to your church because of the rhetoric you're preaching, that should tell you that it's not representative of the true gospel of Jesus, right? Like, your church shouldn't be known more for its ethnic expression, more so than it should be known for it is a church that preaches the word of God in its full authenticity. Like, that's how a church is supposed to be known. What that doesn't mean is that the vast majority of the people can't be all the same ethnicity. Absolutely, it can, right? If you on the south side of Chicago, it ain't a whole lot of white people on the south side of Chicago. You're not in sin if you don't have any white people in your church, but you are in sin when you're doing stuff like this. So let me show you guys what you're looking at. This church is so bathed and baptized in the blackness that I actually got this PDF off their website. They had like 4 weeks of it. I mean, it's a whole curriculum, right? This MAFA 2025. Psalms in the Key of Life. It's amazing how they infuse all of this secular ideology, critical race theory, African spirituality. They done mixed all of this together and created this whole new religion where you glory in your flesh and Christ ain't nowhere to be found. So here, this is the word from the pastor, where he attempts to quote the Apostle John, and then he wants to infuse or blend the Apostle John with Langston Hughes. I'm not going to get into this poem. The poem bothers me greatly. And the poem bothers me greatly because we, and when I say we, the Black diaspora within this nation, we've been indoctrinated to believe that so many of our civil rights icons and those who fought for the cause actually were doing so from a place of righteous indignation. But when I actually look at their rhetoric and what they were saying, these were not good people. A lot of these people just were not good people. Namely, Nikki Giovanni, she one of them. He gonna celebrate her. But I just wanted to highlight their church is not spending time learning about church history and the church fathers and our Christian heritage. Because, you know, when you're in Christ, that's supposed to be important. No, they've taken all of this time to baptize you with an ethnic narcissistic framework. That's what this is. So here, this is the poem on Langston Hughes. You can read it if you want to. This is the contents. This is really what I wanted to show y'all. The first person of antiquity that they want to celebrate is Mansa Musa. And I think the pro-blackity blacks like Mansa because he was very wealthy. He was a man of means. He had a boatload of money. But the part they don't tell you is that Mansa Musa was like one of the largest slave traders. Like, they just leave out that part. They always want to lay condemnation, the perpetual condemnation of man and oppression at the feet of white people. But here they're celebrating this guy right here who was this man had so many slaves. It was just ridiculous. Why are you celebrating Mansa Musa? Jamal Bryant also had him on his shirt. I told you these melanated Marxists, they always dry snitch and tell you who they are and what they believe and why they believe it. I'm looking at this trying to figure out, why are you celebrating the legacy of Mansa Musa? Not the legacy of Athanasius, one of the church fathers, Augustine, maybe. I mean, if you want to make an argument that you want your church to know about church history and its influence of how Northern Africa, Christianity was in Northern Africa before it was in Europe, I'll even grant you that. I'll grant you that. If you just have to have a history lesson to where you see yourself in history because it's that important to you, you could have went to Athanasius. Someone who was from North Africa, who's incredibly influential. We have the codifying of the triune nature of God. We can thank Athanasius for that, the Athanasius Creed. But no, we got Mansa Musa, someone who was a God hater, who didn't even believe in the God you serve. You want to take time out to teach your people to celebrate this. Confusing to me. Then this woman here, I ain't gonna spend a whole lot of time on her, but this is who I want to spend some time on. Oh, I'm confused. Y'all gonna be mad at me for this one, but I gotta get this out. In these pro-blackity black circles and these Afrocentric black churches, they spend a lot of time putting a lot of emphasis on African heritage, right? And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I personally, I'm an American. I don't have a connection to Africa, but let's just go with it. How is it Africans in Africa, they are not overly obsessed with Americans, Black Americans. They disavow Black Americans. In fact, we spend all this time celebrating all this African heritage when I'm like, you don't even want to have a conversation about the Africans who sold you humans to the Europeans. You are willing to absolve them of the responsibility and even the acknowledgement of it. They ain't sent not one canoe over here to check on us. But you itching for an identity so bad that you just got to get in touch with the motherland. And them people ain't thinking about you. If they was thinking about you, if the argument is that there were Africans on the northern hemisphere, on this continent, alongside the Native Americans, that means they knew how to get over here. That means they knew where you were. Like, they knew when they sold you to the Europeans, they knew exactly where them Europeans was taking you. They ain't come check on you. They ain't come to see about you. They knew how to get here. Some of them were already here. But you spend all this time hating white people. Why, I don't know. And you don't have the same energy, and then celebrating the same people who sold you. And who ain't thinking, they're not losing a lick of sleep checking for you. But the idolatry in your heart is so hell-bent on celebrating all this African heritage. And I'm like, why? Like, you ain't never been over there. You ain't been over there. They ain't invited you to come and take a look-see, nothing. I don't understand. Are we that? You say this country hates you, and when they extend the olive branch to include you and say you are equal based on merit, you don't want that. Instead, you want to go back to this. And I'm like, fine. Why aren't you over there? If that's where you want to be, why aren't you over there? You're not over there because they don't want you over there. They think we're lazy. They're just like, y'all don't work hard. Y'all stay over there. And then y'all got all that sodomite homosexuality stuff too. Don't come over here. Y'all leave that over there. It's just an observation. I've noticed a lot of the pro-blackity blacks have an obsession with Africa, but they never answer the question. I mean, have you had a discussion with the people who actually sold you into slavery? Like, they don't get no smoke. We always cry, we want reparations. That's who owes it. If you really want to talk. Here's influential of traditional instruments on African American music. Like, this is in church, y'all. Here's the voices of resistance that I wanted to highlight. The church celebrated Marvin Gaye, Quincy Jones, Curtis Mayfield. This orangutan right here. I've done a show on Nikki Giovanni and her influence in destroying the Black family. I don't know why we're celebrating her. I don't know. This woman made it clear that it was her mission to help Black women realize that marriage was slavery. And that the only reason why you need a man is so you can have his seed and have the baby, but you don't need him. Take the seed, discard the man. That's who Nikki Giovanni is. A lesbian misandrist. She hated men. And then later in her life married a white woman, and you want us to celebrate her because her poetry was beautiful? Of all the things for us to celebrate, these are the individuals that they want us to highlight and celebrate and do it in church on the Lord's Day. Beyonce? What is so virtuous about Beyonce outside of the fact that she done sold a whole lot of records selling poisonous feminism to Black women while she go home to her husband and her children? Why are we celebrating that? Why is she even getting acknowledged and receiving an honorable mention in a church service on the Lord's Day, as if she's done something notable and worthy of recognition? Is you're teaching the young women in your church to be like Beyonce or to be like Serena Williams and Crip Walk? I don't understand why we celebrate the people who are responsible for the degradation of our people, and then in the next breath claim that white people hate us. I don't know. Is this a form of self-hatred? I don't know, because I don't see how this was positive or appropriate to do on the Lord's Day. You have two situations happening that I'm arguing. I am arguing that this was wrong to infuse the secular and the profane with what is supposed to be a gathering on the Lord's Day of God's people, where all we do is focus on Christ and him crucified. This was inappropriate from a theological perspective. That's one argument. The other argument is, culturally, the people that you're celebrating, why is it virtuous? On what basis do these people deserve an honorable mention when you're supposed to be a Christian first before you are Black? You can clearly see in this context, these people are Black and Christianity is nowhere in the room. And the reason why we know it's nowhere in the room, because the pastor's own bio tells you that he's a synergist. He is a progressive synergist that preaches a theology that's rooted in the Blackness and the liberation. Not, you need to be liberated from the besetting sin that has you dead in your sin and trespasses, and you need to be made alive in Christ Jesus. No. That ain't what he's preaching. And I'm going to show you a video of this same pastor who had something to say about the Black conservatives who were recently at the White House. Now I'm trying to understand why this even came up on the Lord's Day. Like, why are you even concerned about this? Oh, I know. It's because you aren't about your Father's business. You care so much about the culture and what's happening in the culture. And it is useful and profitable for you to keep your people ignorant, perpetually outraged, and focused on their victimhood and oppression, than to free them and say, do you not know who the Son has set free is free indeed? Like, why are you talking about what happened at the White House on the Lord's Day in a pulpit rant is beyond me. But here we are. So now we got to talk about it. Y'all, this PDF was wild. It was wild. He's got all sort of, not theological works to help Christians, to strengthen them in their Christian walk and their faith with Christ, but just bathing in the Blackness. Bathing in the Blackness. We wonder why we're so idolatrous, and we wonder why we can't heal and move forward as equal citizens in this country, because I don't think we want that. We want to be perpetually outraged and angry and upset, because if you don't have a boogeyman, it's like, well, what are we going to complain about? To me, it is more useful and profitable for us to focus on how can we strengthen our own homes, right? Like, how can we raise our children in the fear and admonition of the Lord, teach them to be good citizens, teach them how to assimilate and to be productive members of society by teaching them good manners, just, I don't know, the basics, as opposed to teaching them to view the world through a perpetual lens of oppression and victimhood. I don't see how that's going to be useful or meaningful for any young person growing up in 2025. I don't see how that's going to help them in their journey at all. They're going to go into the world and they're going to realize that much of what they've been told, that you were lying to them. Because they're going to be like, I've went plenty of places where people didn't look like me and nobody called me the N-word. Or, or put it like this, they're going to project all that hatred that you were teaching them to have. They're going to project and inject it where it doesn't even exist. Like the moment there's a disagreement between them and a person of another ethnicity, they're going to automatically assume that it's because they're Black and not because they were either a jerk or they were actually just wrong about something. They were in the wrong. Not saying that's always the case. The other person could be in the wrong too. But at what point do you learn how to engage with people who are different from you without automatically assuming the worst? Anyway, let me show y'all this rant. Y'all want to watch the rest of this? This thing is stupid. It's like really stupid. But let me show y'all the rest of this.
The great state of Michigan, a gentleman by the name of Stevie Wonder. He's an American icon, songwriter, musician, and record producer. He is regarded as one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. Stevie Wonder is credited as a pioneer and influenced by musicians across a range of genres. Let us welcome none other than Stevie Wonder to Trinity United Church of Christ. But not only do we have Stevie Wonder with us, we have another icon. You know her by another name, but her birth name is Dana Elaine Owens, known professionally on stage and screen as Queen Latifah. She's an American hip-hop artist, singer, and actress, receiving a variety of accolades, including a Grammy, a Primetime Emmy Award, and a Golden Globe Award, and 3 Screen Actor Guild Awards, and 2 NAACP Image Awards. She's also now the equalizer. Welcome, Queen Latifah.
Y'all, who does this? Who else does this? It's only us. Am I just being too harsh? Because y'all, this is stupid. This is... I'm trying to understand why the people of God care to celebrate Queen Latifah, Beyonce, Serena Williams, and Kendrick Lamar. I mean, I don't wonder. I'm confident that the reason why they are doing this is because their identity is not hidden in Christ. They have yet to die to themselves. They've not been crucified with Christ. The life that they're living is all them. It's all them. When your life is hidden in Christ, you have a more balanced way of living by saying, hey, I like Stevie Wonder. I like, Marvin Gaye. Like, these guys made some great music. Love listening to it in my quiet time and when I'm at the cookout with the fam. But I'm not coming to church to celebrate them. That's not why I'm here. There's no value. One, there's no eternal value in that, in this context. But they thought this was so important that they had to take time out on the Lord's Day to celebrate God haters and lesbians and people who are glorifying gang culture, like, and a Black Hebrew Israelite. I'm confused. Are you a Christian or no? I'm inclined to say no, Otis Moss. Your love of music, jazz, and hip hop is overshadowing the fact that this is not the environment for this. But I get it. You have already admitted that you preach a different gospel. Your gospel is bathed in the Blackness and the liberation of Black spirituality, which the Bible knows nothing of. And so you've created your own religion. And so in your religion, this is prudent and this is right and this is lawful. So technically, I really can't have smoke for you. I think this video is more so for people who would be led astray to think that this is Christianity. So I want to draw a line in the sand and make a clear distinction between what biblical Christianity is and what this mess is. They are not the same. They're not the same. For the Bible-believing Christian, our identity is hidden in Christ. We gather and we worship to glorify and magnify. It's all about Christ. All of Christ for all of life. Everything we do in the worship service points to him. It is not an opportunity for us to glory in our flesh, to bathe in the Blackness of our culture and our heritage. Don't nobody care. Don't nobody care. Like, you do that in school, do that, some other time. But I see why he was criticized for it. One, this is secular in nature and it's not God honoring or God glorifying. And, for those who are like, I just think you're being overly critical. No, I'm just being a Christian. I'm sorry. The Christianity has been hijacked. They are using the name. They are using Christian language, speaking all kinds of Christianese, but it is not Christianity. This is another religion. Anytime someone tells you that his passion for something is what shapes how he leads, he is telling you that he is not submitted to the lordship of Jesus, and he is not shepherding the flock of God, which is what he's supposed to do. He is shepherding goats to himself. He is leading them down a path of discipleship, but it is not following the way. It's following his passion and appreciation for jazz and hip hop in this unique message of hope and healing. Like, this isn't just a bio that was describing this event. This is his bio, period. So he is telling you the mission of his church is this, and it's done on the basis of this, not on the basis of the gospel of Christ, calling sinners to repentance. By the regenerating power of the Holy Spirit, we are leading with Christ died for the ungodly. Repent and believe. It ain't nowhere on the website. Nowhere. It is social justice. It is oppression narratives and all of this community organizing type stuff. These are civil rights workers masquerading as pastors. And to me, it would be so much more easier if they just got out, like, take Christ off. I mean, I guess I can't tell you to do that. I understand, the tax exemption status provides you with benefits that are useful financially, but these are not churches. And in fact, let me show the clip where the same pastor was clapping back at the Black conservatives at the White House, and then I'm going to wrap it up. We may not get to Jamal tonight because the clapback, both of these pastors got all this energy and clapback foolishness. I actually have some thoughts on what happened at the White House. If you didn't know that there was a Black History celebration at the White House when was it? I think it was last week. While I was in Detroit, it was that week or whatever. I did not go. I didn't even know about it. I thought that was funny, but it's all good. Didn't know about it. But I thought it was an amazing idea to have, there are so many Black conservatives that supported Donald Trump that worked tirelessly on their platform, disseminating his message for America and his MAGA ideals. And so they went there, one, to just have a good time, I don't care who is in office, whether it is a Republican or a Democrat, to be invited to the White House is a big thing. And if you actually love this country and you can put partisan politics aside and just acknowledge when the president invites you, you show up and go, not because you like him, but because of the office, that's just the right. Like, I didn't like Joe Biden at all. I thought he was a horrible leader. But if Joe Biden had invited me to the White House, I'm going. It's out of respect for the office. He is still the president. And so to have the president, Donald Trump, invite Black Americans for a Black History celebration, I didn't have anything wrong with that. Now, of course, the Black liberal is going to find fault in that, right? Because, see, they haven't learned how to function in their freedom. And so what they have to do is use all kinds of pejoratives and names to make you feel bad, right? For realizing that you are an American citizen. And if the president invites you, you go. They don't have the courage to do that and to function in their freedom as well. So they have to they have to use pejoratives and attempt to make you feel bad, to shame you. But at the same token, I took issue with holding up the placard of Jamal Bryant at the White House. I really did take issue with that. Not that it wasn't funny, because I didn't even see that coming, and it was funny, but I wouldn't have done it. And I wouldn't have done it for the simple fact that he did not deserve that kind of notoriety or attention. He just didn't. Like, don't nobody outside of folks who are tuned to these pulpit pimp streets and what false teachers are up to, don't nobody really know on a national level, like, of importance. They don't know who Jamal is, and nor do they really care, right? He thinks he's important. He thinks he's somebody, but he's really not. And so holding his face up, giving him that kind of publicity, for me, you should have just been spending time enjoying yourself at the White House, enjoying all of that nice catered food and that beautiful music. And probably that wasn't the right environment to do that. But that's just my opinion. I still thought it was funny, and I absolutely laughed. But I knew that it was going to come with a consequence and backlash that now you're going to have to defend why you did it. And so here we are. You already know, once he got word of it, he was going to clap back in his effeminate energy and whoop-de-woo. You knew all that was going to happen. And so now it's like this back and forth. So I'm here for it. I wish it hadn't happened. I really do. But since it did, we got to talk about it. So first, I'm going to show you the clip of, what's his name? Moss clapping back. Hold on. Let's get all these videos out of the way. Where did I put the folder? Oh, here we go. This is as big as I can get it, y'all. Well, maybe that's not true. I can zoom. Oh, okay, it's zoomed. All right, let's play this.
Holy Spirit, I'm going to say this. It's not written, but the Lord just dropped this in my spirit. But they supposedly had a Black History celebration at the White House. After the White House had been removing Black history from all types of programs, they had a bunch of quote-unquote social media influencers, most of them under the age of 35, wearing hats and whatnot, all excited that they were standing in the East Room in the White House. And there they were lobbying the president, shouting, oh, I shouldn't have said that, he's not, but lobbying, wanting the new FBI director to go after preachers who speak against the administration. Something must be wrong with you when you want the FBI to come after your own people. But I'm here to let you know, at Trinity United Church of Christ, ain't nobody backing down.
All right, I wanted to pause it real quick. First of all, could you guys hear that okay? Let me know if you guys, audio-wise, were able to hear that okay. I didn't hear anybody really say that they couldn't, but if you guys were able to hear it okay. All right. So I told you this church is bathed in the blackness, right? So he's basically disavowing, social media influencers who were all under the age of 30, which is not true. I knew so many people that were there. And I mean, you had Gen Xers, you had some young boomers there. There were plenty of people of all age ranges there in that room. You did have some Gen Zers. You had a few, you may have had some alphas. But you had everyone ranging from alpha all the way up to baby boomers in that room. So it is, and then everybody wasn't a social media influencer. There were a lot of influencers there, but not all of them. But he's like, they're excited to be there. It's being listen, we get it. You haven't learned how to function in your freedom. So something like this wouldn't be exciting for you. I get it. You spend a lot of time ruminating over your oppression and bathing yourself in victimhood. So you're unable to have, a perspective of, I was invited to the White House, I'm going to go. You're assuming that there's some other motive as to why these people were invited. That's why I said, no matter what you do, it'll never be good enough for these Black liberals. And sometimes talking to them, it is a waste of your time because they are dead set on the hatred and the perpetual condemnation of this country. And they're never going to allow anyone to move past it. So it's like, fine. You felt some sort of kind of way because Black folks was in the White House and you're mad because they were smiling. I'd like to note that categorically, Black conservatives are so much more happier, well-adjusted, and joyful than Black liberals. Black liberals, they age faster, I'm convinced, because they stay in a perpetual cycle of hatred and rage. They lack joy. They are so discontent with everything around them because they spend so much time being hateful and ruminating on who hates them and obsessing on who hates them, when I'm like, ain't nobody thinking about you. Especially white folks. Like, they really ain't thinking about you. And the only reason why us Black conservatives think about you, because we love you enough that we trying to snatch some of y'all off the plantation, but some of y'all are lost cause. So some of us are like, you know what? You keep saying that you oppress. I believe you. You are. So we're going to leave you to yourself. We're going to leave you to your own devices and let you stew in your oppression. But over here, we have the joy of the Lord. We're smiling, right? Like, we're happy. We are living life, enjoying what it means to be an American. We don't walk around full of distrust, wondering who's looking at us wrong and if they hate us, because we don't live our lives obsessed about what other people think about us. Like, it's so much freedom over here. And then if you are a Christian, you have the freedom that comes with being redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Like, you really ain't never scared, right? Because you already know that your life is not your own, that you've been bought with a price, and any sort of persecution that you receive for the cause of Christ, you like, bring it. Yes, I'm built for this. So all of the pejoratives and the things that these black liberals say, they really don't bother us. They really don't. But I thought it was interesting. He's like, they all excited. Yes, they were excited. They were happy. And they were smiling. And they were enjoying being guests in the White House that, yes, their ancestors helped build. Now, which one is it? Do you want us to acknowledge the contributions of black people, or when the contributions of black people are acknowledged, then it's a problem? Pick a struggle. Which one is it? Y'all ain't never satisfied. And that's why people ignore you and you don't never get anything done. That's why your districts are still trash. Y'all still broke, busted, and disgusted. You don't know how to balance a budget. Everything in your community run by other black liberals, they get no better. There's no measurable improvement at all, because you spend more time complaining about what other people are doing for you or doing to you, actually, than putting your head down, getting to work, and doing for your own. That gets lost on them. But he's upset because they was excited, being at the White House, which is an honor. I know it ain't an honor for you. Now, if Joe Biden had invited you, you would be honored, but he didn't. But that's neither here or there. This is not the first time Trump has invited black people to the White House. I have actually been to the White House. I was at the White House in 2019. Me and all four of my children and my husband, we had an amazing time. Beautiful. It was nice. It was just nice. It was an honor to be there. It was like hell trying to get through Secret Service, but I got through. Now, my children got through and my husband got through with no problem. And for whatever reason, there was an issue with my security clearance and I had to be held aside until that got worked out. I didn't cry racism and say it's because I'm black. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those thoughts never came through my mind. But we got it fixed. But the point I'm making is that he feels some sort of kind of way about it. And then he makes this statement that the black conservatives in the room were lobbying Trump's new FBI director, Kash Patel. Shout out to Kash. Listen, Kash is coming for you. He coming for where all that cash come from, all that bread in your pocket, all these black pulpit pimps that y'all was getting. Yes, you should feel some sort of kind of way about Kash Patel. But he assumed, and I don't know this to be true, he assumed that the black conservatives in the White House were telling Donald Trump to ensure that the FBI director, Kash Patel, comes after black preachers who, quote unquote, go against his administration. Listen, I don't think the issue has anything to do with black preachers going against the administration. The issue with a lot of these black pulpit pimps is that they are using their pulpits with their tax exemption status in a way that it was never designed to be used. We don't understand why pastors are endorsing anybody, right? You should not be, this political rhetoric from the pulpit is inappropriate. And my thing is, if you want to engage in political rhetoric from the pulpit, fine. Get rid of your tax exemption status, because at that point, you are no longer functioning as a church. You are a political arm of the Democrat Party. You can't have it both ways. Either you're going to be tax exempt and keep the discussions in the pulpit, keep it nonpartisan, or you're going to be an extension of the Democratic Party as the iron triangle pulpit pimp that you are, and take money from the Democrats and push Democrat leftist propaganda to your people as a representative of the Democratic Party. And you got to pick one of the two. But you can't have it both ways. And so if that's what was actually happening where there was a call for the FBI to investigate a lot of these black preachers, my thing is, I don't see there anything wrong with that. And I think the reason why he brought that up is because he knows darn well that he knows about the street money. He knows about all of the ways that election interference is done in the black community at the hands of the black preacher. These black preachers are propagandists. They lie to their congregations. They push falsehoods in order to sway the public opinion, to get these Black people to vote a certain way. And they know that their position of influence as the pastor carries weight. So they know if the pastor says it ain't got to be true, but if he says it from that pulpit, he knows that it carries weight. And 9 times out of 10, he knows that the sheep, pardon the pun, and I don't mean sheep as in sheep who follow the Lord Jesus, sheep that follow the pulpit pimp, they know that these sheep turn off their brain. They don't fact check. They do whatever the pastor tells them to do. That's why they come back every week and they listen to this political propaganda and they never compare it to the word of God. They don't even realize that they're sitting under a false shepherd who is lying to them, who is exploiting them for his own selfish gain. They don't know. And so I guess I can let him finish, but I probably have said all I needed to say about that. Let me see. How much? Yeah, it's not much.
We've been doing this since 1961, and we're going to keep doing it every single week because they not like us. But I'm here to let you know we are rooted firmly on the soil of God. We are connected to our Savior, and we will not bow down to any type of idolatry. We will not bow down to any golden calf. We will not bow down to a King Nebuchadnezzar. We only serve the Lord our God. Is there anyone in here?
Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that he talks about, we've been doing this since 1961. I'm like, yeah, you've been preaching hate since 1961. You have. You were telling the absolute bona fide truth. You've been preaching hate. You've been pushing pain and oppression since 1961. And my question is, when we examine the outcomes of the things, the propaganda that you've been spewing, we are no better off today than we were in 1961. In fact, we are worse. We are worse. When we had pastors like J.H. Jackson teaching his congregation about being resilient and self-reliance, not looking to a government program or looking to politics as a means to an end, but rather put your head down, work hard, create your own. Let's buy some property. Let's provide for our own people. When we were doing that, when our houses, our families were intact, where we had mamas and daddies that were married, having children in the confines of marriage, like we were accomplishing some pretty amazing things. But since 1961, pulpit pimps like this, who wanted us to appeal to other image bearers who didn't look like us, who, due to, I would say, the fractured nature of the race relations in this country, the Christian position would have been, listen, they may hate you, you love them. And over time, the love of Christ, because it's been doing it all through antiquity, softens the heart of the most vilest sinner. And when you treat them like fellow image bearers, not based on how they treat you, but you do what you're supposed to do. You ain't got to beg nobody to love you. You ain't got to beg nobody to like you. You don't even need to be nowhere where you're not wanted. You can shake the dust off your feet. However, when you live with your head up high and walking with a sense of purpose, either one or two things are going to happen. Either the light of Christ that's emanating from you is going to shine in that dark place and show the person their evil and their hatred, and they'll either change by the love of Jesus and the light of Christ resonating, or they're just going to continue to hate you. But either way, you can't make people love you. You just can't. And you don't even need to be overly concerned and obsessed with how others view you. It ain't your job to care that much. We come preaching the gospel of peace, right? Our feet are prepared with that. We have the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit. Like, we have all of these spiritual weapons to fight these intrinsic realities. And yet, the message that comes from these churches is that we need to use the arm of the government to demand what should be rightfully ours versus saying, we don't need the arm of the government because we don't need these people to like us nowhere. In fact, you should distrust the government. You should distrust the government. Jesus never went around trying to get the people, the first century Christians, to appeal to Rome for their rights. Why? We are sojourners, exiles, passing through. You submit to the government, obey governing authorities, and as much as it depends on you, you treat people how you're supposed to be, how you want to be treated. But outside all that love and they hate us. And why is your self-worth tied to how other people view you? I don't get it. But he also said, he made a statement that I thought was interesting. He said that those Black conservatives at the White House should be ashamed of themselves because they're not standing with their people. And I'm like, who's my people? Do I have to clarify who my people are? Because according to scripture, my people are those who do the will of the Father. It's not just because of my kinsmen according to the flesh share my ethnic reflection. I have a love for them, like, a brotherly affection for them, but that doesn't make them my people. So essentially, he is saying that on the basis of the Blackness alone, you are not allowed to have an ideological difference than him. That is essentially what he is saying. He forgets the fact, the reason why Black conservatives don't want to stand with the Black liberal, because the Black liberal is pro-baby murder. When we are beyond the rate of replacement, sorry, we have no solidarity or unity with you there. They're pro-sexual perversion. They have no problems with the sexual perversion creeping into our schools, corrupting the minds of our children. Sorry, we have no unity there. Can't stand with you there. They want us to stand in solidarity on the basis of us being people, yet they are advocating for open borders. I'm sorry, I'm pro-America first. Can't stand with you on the open border thing. Ain't gonna be able to do it. It drives down the wages of the people who need jobs the most, and it brings in more crime. And we don't need more crime, especially on the south side of Chicago. We got enough problems with Taquay as it is. We don't need Tren de Agua over here causing more problems. So yes, we are for legal immigration, but not an open border. Sorry, I'm not a globalist. So we can't stand with you on that. So right now, we got you're pro-baby murder, yet you claim to be a Christian. You're pro-LGBT rainbow cult agenda because you disguise that under civil rights when it is not a civil right for you to choose your sexual proclivity. That is your choice. It is a work of the flesh that no believer should be on the side of we should not be on the same side of that issue. We're supposed to be on the side of scripture when it comes to that. Your issue with the Black conservatives at the White House, you're mad because they're not with their people when this is an ideological discussion, not an ethnic one. So because you don't ideologically agree with him and his baptism of Blackness, something's wrong with you. And I ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. I wasn't even at the White House, but in an effort to defend the individuals that were there, I feel pretty confident in speaking on their behalf to say, we don't want to be like you. In no uncertain terms do we want to be on the side of wickedness and perversion. Why? Because wickedness and perversion civil rights don't trump that. There's no way that you can look at the things that the ideological left stands for and try to say, well, you know what? I can stand with them, because of this one issue. Everything's wicked and perverse. I can't do it. Let me tell y'all a story. Y'all, this weekend when I was in Detroit, when I was checking out of my hotel on Sunday, I'm waiting for my Uber. And this guy was in the lobby. Now, y'all, listen, no shade, but when I have to get back into travel mode to head home, and I'm thinking, and I had to fly through Charlotte, so I'm already trying to psych myself up. I absolutely hate that airport. The Charlotte airport is horrible. They always put you too far away from your connecting flight, and you run the risk of missing your flight. But anyway, I'm in the lobby minding my business. And this black dude comes over to me, and he had that look like, I want to talk. And I was like, oh, Lord, it's too early for this, Jesus. I don't want to talk, but okay. So he comes over and he sparks up this discussion. Hey, he says, how you doing? I'm like, hey, how are you? Good morning. And then he starts asking all these intrusive questions. For somebody that don't know you, he's just asking questions like, where are you from? And so I'm like, okay, let me oblige. I'm like, yeah, I'm from Georgia. So he starts telling me the story about a friend of his, frat brother of his, who's from Georgia. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. And I'm like, all right, well, I was like, you know what? I'll be right back. And my client, who had just come downstairs as well, is sitting there, and I'm like, can you watch my stuff? I'm going to the front. I really just want to walk away. I wanted to walk away, and I wanted to get a Snicker bar because I'm cranky because I haven't eaten yet. So I go to the front desk, I get my Snicker bar, then I come back, and he's still there. I'm like, oh, Lord, he looks like he still want to talk. So he's trying to pick up the conversation again. So he's making small talk, and I'm not being rude. I'm just being so gracious and accommodating. I'm telling him I'm from Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, whoop-de-woo, whoop-de-woo. And then I'm thinking, okay, that's going to be the end of the discussion. No, that wasn't the end. His next question to me was, so what do you think? What do you think about, the election and the president and all that's happening right now? I was like, here we go. I said, I'm quite pleased. I said, he's like, well, what do you think about the president? I said, well, I think he's doing a phenomenal job. I said, for the first 30 days of him being in office, I'm quite pleased with all that he's accomplished. I said, I hired him to close the border, and that is happening. I said, I hired him to start finding out where all of my money, my tax money, and your tax money too, has been going. And I said, so I'm very pleased with what he's, uncovered via Doge in an effort to try to save us money and to get a handle on this spending, because, that affects my children and my children's children, because that is debt that they're going to have to deal with. I said, I'm definitely pleased with him, rolling back the rules on males competing in female sports. I said, that is a problem for me, and all this sexual perversion. I said, we just needed a reset. So I'm going down this list of all of the things that are currently being accomplished that I'm pleased with. Because why? Like, did I offer this information, or did this person ask me? I'm okay, he asked me. So I'm explaining. This dude gets triggered like I stole his bike or something. So immediately now, he doesn't want to really have a conversation and engage with me as to why I think the way that I do. What he wants to do is decide that this is an opportunity for him to jump in my face and berate me. And I was like, you picked the wrong day for this, homie. So he starts getting all aggressive and getting all loud. And I said, wait a minute. I said, sir, you asked me a question. I said, I am responding. I said, you've yet to engage with anything that I've said. You asked me how I thought he was doing in terms of job performance. I said, now you're trying to get into another conversation about how I feel about him as a person. I am not in a relationship with this man. We are not dating. I hired him to do a job, because instead of this man engaging with what I said, he's like, well, what about him being a rapist? I was like, well, I mean, if you believe that he's that, then I can see why you have a problem. But I was like, I don't believe that. He goes, well, you know, what about being a felon? I said, well, once again, if you believe that all of those cases were lawful cases and they were adjudicated correctly, then I can see why you think that that's a problem. I said, I don't. I believe the government and the judicial system was weaponized against him. And I was like, wait a minute. First of all, why are we even having this discussion? Because I did not come down waiting on this Uber. So what I started doing, I said, let's reel this in. I said, sir, my Uber's gonna be here in about 3 minutes. I said, so, you know, I really didn't want to engage like this, but you seem real passionate about this, so I am obliging. I said, but you know, you've not engaged with anything that I've said. You keep throwing and hurling out all these accusations, and you asked me about job performance. Well, did you vote for Elon Musk? I said, actually, I did not. Well, then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Slow down, pimpin'. I said, I didn't vote for Elon Musk. I said, however, Elon Musk was brought in as a subject matter expert to bring his expertise to a problem that we absolutely have: government waste and fraud. And he's uncovering it. I said, so he didn't need to be on the ballot for him to accomplish what he's accomplishing. I said, he's doing it at the behest of the president. What does me voting for him have to do with anything? I was like, I don't have no smoke for Elon. And quite frankly, I don't really want to talk about this anymore with you. Y'all, this man jumped in my face. He jumped in my face, and I looked him in the eye. I said, first of all, you in my personal space, I'm going to need you to back up because it's about to go left real quick. My client jumps up like, all right, first of all, little buddy, this is inappropriate. Why are you so emotional? The young lady just said that you need to move back and you need to calm down. Y'all, this man was arguing. He was arguing like an effeminate, unhinged, emotional female. And it got so crazy. Like, I am walking toward the door to exit, to get into my Uber. You know, this man walked behind me because he just got to get the last word. I was like, bro. I was like, do you want half of this Snicker bar? Because you need it way more than I do. And it was in that moment that I realized, I said, all of the emotional arguments that this man presented, when I kept telling him, I was like, you're asking me what I voted for and if I was pleased with the job that was being done. And I answered in the affirmative. I said, my question to you is, I said, you enjoy murdering babies? I didn't vote for that. I said, sorry, yes, you did. I said, if you didn't vote, if you voted for a Democrat, you absolutely voted for the wholesale murdering of babies up until the 9th month. That's what they're doing. I didn't vote for that. Oh, okay. Yes, you did. I said, you also voted for the sexual perversion of our children. You want this information in the schools. You don't want any restraints whatsoever. You believe children should be sexualized and exposed to content that is not age appropriate. I said, that's happening in the schools. You voted for that. You want females to be pummeled by biological men in women's sports. You voted for that. I said, I don't understand why you mad at me. I said, I've been clear that what I voted for, I'm getting the return on the investment that I asked for. You, on the other hand, I said, you live in one of the most blackest cities in the country. And it's ran by your party. And everybody around here is broke, busted, and disgusted. You're mad at the wrong people. I was like, Donald Trump didn't tear up your city. Democrats did. I'm confused why you're mad at me. Not one time did this man engage in a meaningful, he didn't engage with anything I said. It was just raw emotion. And it was at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm arguing with a fool. I was like, sir, I can't talk to you right now. I have to go catch a plane. I said, but you may want to consider your arguments. I said, because all I heard from you was baseless emotions, and it wasn't rooted in any facts. And I said, until you can reconcile how you want to murder babies and sexualize children and push all this rainbow cult agenda and have all these illegals in your country with your resources, until you can justify that to me, we ain't got nothing to talk about. And I said, I'd appreciate it if you get up out my face. And that's how that went. And it took my client to have to get in his face and tell him to go and sit his little raggedy snagger-tooth behind down somewhere before he get punched in the chest. It was wild. I had never experienced anything like that before. And it was at that moment that I realized, I said, maybe I've been living in a bubble. Maybe I have been thinking that people are more rational than they really are. I'm giving them too much credit. Unfortunately, a lot of people who look like me are unhinged, and their derangement runs so deep that they cannot think in proper categories. And so to try to broach an intelligent discussion with them on the basis of facts, they cannot do it. Instead of him, you asked me a question about, was I pleased with the results that I was getting? And I gave you specific examples of things that I absolutely voted for and that were being accomplished. And instead of you dealing with that, he wanted to talk about rapists and being a felon and all of the other things that the left kept pushing, thinking that America was stupid and was actually going to keep believing that. And I was like, I can't. I'm done. And he was just like, he hates you. He don't love you. And I was like, wow. I was like, you think I voted for Donald Trump because I need him to love me? I was like, sir, get a hold of yourself. Why is your self-worth tied to this man who don't even know you exist, loving you or not? I was like, I don't need him to love me. I said, I need him to do the darn job he was hired for. And he's doing that. How he feels about me is inconsequential. He couldn't understand. He was like, but he hates you and he ain't gonna never accept you. I was like, wow. I was like, yeah, you're the one with the low self-worth. It ain't me. I was like, I was like, your whole existence is tied to whether or not people love you or not. I was like, how have you gone through the world as old as you are thinking like this? He was like, he don't care nothing about you. And I'm like, I wasn't trying to dry snitch. I really wasn't. But I said, sir, I said, do you see us? I said, do we look like we have lost any sleep because Donald Trump loves or does not love us? He don't care nothing about your community. Once again, do I look like I've missed a meal because this man either loves or does not love me? Like trying to help this man understand that his perception of himself should not be tied to how someone else views him. That man could not wrap his mind around the idea that we were fully functioning in our freedom, and it was regardless of how some external out there, a person, a boogeyman, an idea thought about me. And I was like, this is the problem. The low self-worth, it comes from within, not without. These people are not out here making Black people feel bad about themselves. It's coming from within. I was like, I don't know where you learned that your self-worth needed to be tied to how other people view you. I said, but that is a sad existence. I said, sir, you need help. And it's beyond the scope of what I can do in this 3 minutes with this darn Uber coming. I'm in the Uber, y'all, he's still hollering, yelling at the Uber while the Uber's driving off. I said, and the man in the Uber felt so bad. He was like, listen, I just want to say that I'm sorry this is your experience in Detroit and we're not all like this. And we just laughed about it because he was like, that was so weird. He was like, did you know him? I was like, no, we didn't know this man. Minding my business in the lobby of the hotel waiting for my Uber. Why politics came up, I don't know. I didn't bring it up. Like, I don't walk around perpetually mad at politics. But this was on this man's mind so much that out of all of the things we could have talked about the weather. We could have talked about sports. We could have talked about anything. This is what he wanted to talk about. And when he didn't get the response that he was expecting, when I didn't join him in his hatred and his contempt, he didn't know what to do with it. He was just, why aren't you upset? Why aren't you angry? And I was like, because I'm free in Jesus. I don't know. I don't know why I'm not mad and angry all the time. But you should try it. You should try it. So anyway, y'all, it's 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. I wasn't even trying to be on here this long. I didn't even get to Jamal Bryant. We may have to save him for Friday. I don't know. But it's the same thing. Jamal clapped back, right? He clapped back, calling people spooks. We shouldn't even have given him the honor of having a cardboard representation at the White House. He didn't deserve it. We shouldn't have did it. And I'm saying I wasn't there. I did not do it. I don't think we should have done it. We shouldn't have done it. Jamal is of no consequence. He is a tool for the Democratic Party, and he is useful to them. And when he's no longer useful to them, they will discard him like they do everybody else. Like they discarded Kamala. It is what it is. It is what it is. Overall, I am concerned with the idolatry of melanin amongst our people. And I thought it was interesting that Otis Moss III mentioned the word idolatry and the golden calf and King Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm like, you've done no self-reflection, because you do the very same thing, but instead the idol is your blackness. It's your ethnicity that you constantly glory in, and you view the world through the lens of your ethnicity, so much so that it clouds your spiritual eyes, which you don't have because you're spiritually dead, and you need to repent and trust in Christ alone for your salvation. Because this external, this dermal reality that we're clothed in has no ability to save you. I know it feels good to have ethnic pride, and no one is saying that you need to disavow who you are. God made you this way. You are an expression of his glory that fills the earth with different shades of melanin, might I add. But it is not something that you are supposed to glory and revel in and idolize to where it consumes everything that you do, and you view the world through its lens. It just doesn't. So I would argue that the idol that you bow down in worship to is actually love of yourself and glorying in your flesh as if it has more weight and value than it actually has, and it doesn't. We've replaced the worship of the one true God for ethnicity. Basically, it's Romans 1, right? Claiming to be wise, they've become fools, and they've worshiped and served the creature rather than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Romans 1. That's what I see. So this is why the preaching from the pulpit in a lot of these ethnically charged sermons is because they don't have the light of Christ emanating from the inside out. They've got a false Christ who comes with a message of loathe and liberation and victimhood, and not victory in Jesus and what Christ has accomplished for the atonement of our sins and our redemption in life through Christ. That's what it is. So yeah, it's sad. I'm gonna get to these super chats and then I'm gonna wrap it up because it's late. Very, very late. Let's see here. Ooh, I missed a whole lot. Derek said, I need to start running like Joy's hairline. Listen, okay. I'm going to let that hairline joke, I'm going to let it ride. I'm sensitive to the hairline jokes because after I had my twins, like my hair grew. Oh, you know how when you're pregnant, you're like, oh, you're glowing and your hair is so thick. It's false. It's false because as soon as them babies came out within 6 weeks, all of this was gone. all of this, all of it. It was just gone. I was just like, what? The hormonal changes, they just left. It just looked like somebody chewed them out. It was just like, just gone. And so I'm real sensitive on the edges, because in women's edges, it's everything. When you ain't got no edges, your self-confidence is just shot, right? Now, some of us, our edges are look chewed out because of the weaves and the wigs. Others of us, pregnancy hormones and other thyroid issues, that could be the issue. So I don't know Joy's issue. I don't. But I do know I am tired of seeing all these bald-headed women on the TV. I just am. I'm over it. I am over it. But that was funny, Derek. Sister Amethyst Angel, how are you? Amethyst says, she only went bald when an indie journalist confronted her on camera, pointing out her blonde Trump hair. He asked if she was culturally appropriating, and it was a paper towel, not a tissue. Oh, okay. Dang. Oh, that means it hurt. Okay, thank you, sis. So, you know what? I could not understand the Trump hair. I was like, your hatred for Trump is so much that you want to walk around and look like him every day with a blonde wig very similar to his. Like, I don't know. I tell you, people in her life don't love her, because her husband should have first one and been like, babe, you can't rock that. And it's sad that an indie journalist, like you were saying, confronted her on the Trump hair, and that's when she just decided to cut it all off and go bald. I don't understand the blonde. Like we don't. Some of us, like I'm too dark to just be rocking blonde hair. Everybody know that my hair don't grow out of my scalp blonde, but whatever. The fashion choices, whatever you choose, whatever makes you happy. Derek says, church? I think not. Celebrating godlessness. Yes. So they call it a church. They call it a church, but it's more like a synagogue of Satan. Yeah, because God ain't in none of that foolishness. God is not in the perpetual preaching of hate from the pulpit against image bearers who don't look like you. These people are lost. They are indeed lost. Derek also says, everyone celebrated our entertainers, no engineers, no doctors, etc. I also noticed that. I also noticed that we love to tout, all of our accomplishments, but if there's an engineer or a doctor that we should be highlighting, we don't know who they are, because it's always the entertainers, the ones that are promoting debaucherous behavior. Beyonce, I'm trying to understand why we were celebrating her. I really don't. But, we just messed up. We just messed up, Derek. I don't know. Philip said, April, don't hurt him. April the hammer. I thought that I was being very nice, and I thought that, I didn't come too hard. I really pulled back. I really did. Because I don't want the substance of what I'm trying to convey to get lost. I don't. But there are just times when the criticism has to be sharp, because these people are just so jacked up and so wicked. Like, somebody has to say it. Somebody has to say it. But thank you, Brother Philip, for your super chat this evening. Oh, wow. Spirit Fruit Orchard. Haven't seen you in a while, beautiful. She says, Armageddon is here. Hot messes and little fires everywhere, especially in the government. That may have been why Jesus had it on his shoulders. Listen, I knew that the deep state was swampy. I think we all knew. I did not take serious when Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. I just thought it was going to be like a little surface scraping, just get the little film off the water, you know, the algae. I didn't think he was really gonna drain the swamp. And what he is doing with Doge, the reason why the left hates it so much is because it is pulling the cover back and exposing what they've been up to all of these years. And they don't want that information known. And so you would think that they would be advocating for a process that would save the American taxpayer money. You think they would be advocating for a process that would make the government be more efficient and get us out of debt. But no, they don't want that because they are guilty. And if we uncover that, it's going to expose whose hands were in the cookie jar. And that's why they all are like, we can't have government transparency. Because if we have government transparency, then they don't know that we've been stealing. And they don't want that. But I say, flick that light on and let's watch them roaches scatter. That's what I'm here for. Brother Derek said, no doctors and engineers. No, none at all. None at all. Hey, Brother Victor. Thank you for that super chat. Also the same from Brother James. Thank you, sir. Hey, friend. Support Our Shields is listen, he's part of the dream team. That is my brother in the Lord, my brother from another mother, Henry Hollywood Morris. We were traveling this weekend, all of us together. And he says April's feet still have not recovered from the Detroit trip. He is not lying. TPUSA Faith Pastor Summit is next for the dream team. Who ate April's pineapples? Listen. Tell the truth and shame the devil. A certain person that I will remain nameless ate all my pineapple. And okay, so 2013, y'all know I was in the furniture industry. I dropped a sofa on my right foot. And I thought I was fine. Like it hurt like crazy when it happened. And I was kind of messed up for a couple of days. Y'all, I think I fractured my toe all the way back then because to this day, no matter what shoes I wear, my left foot, even in my shoes, like the shoes from the devil that hurt, my left foot can tolerate it for the most part. My right foot, y'all thought I was going to die. Oh my gosh. I was in tears. I had been in the same shoes all day. And by the time we finished the Saturday event with Blexic, I could not walk. I mean, I couldn't walk. And so that's what he's referring to. Speaking of which, you guys, March the 18th through the 20th, Turning Point is having their pastor summit here in Gainesville, Georgia. If you are in Metro Atlanta and are interested in attending, go to the Turning Point USA website. The Dream Team will be there as well for that. Super excited. Looking forward to that. There was something else that I wanted to mention. Oh, I remember. Hold on. Let me make sure I got all the super chats. Tomorrow morning, that's another reason why I got to get up off this live stream. I will be on Newsmax 2 in the morning at 8 a.m. on First Edition. I've been invited back, super excited about that, to discuss a myriad of topics. I can't remember what they all will be, but I'm glad to represent the conservative position well. I'm not bald. My hair is short by choice, but it ain't bald. And even though I do need my hair done, I do. I know y'all. I miscalculated the weeks, and I would have normally by now would have had a touch up. But I forgot to make my appointment. So my appointment is not until Friday. So unfortunately, I will be on Newsmax tomorrow. This is the best I could get it to look. These roots, like all up in here, you don't want to put your hand up in there. It's not good. But luckily, y'all can't feel it, but I do. I can feel it, and it's in a bad place. But anyway, if you are stationary tomorrow and have access to Newsmax 2 at 8 a.m., I will be on Newsmax 2 on First Edition. So be looking for that. Once the episode or the segment comes out, I'll upload it to the channel. And then also be looking for the Anton Daniels interview. We did it, but it's huge. It's a huge file, and I have not finished editing that. So I love you guys with the love of the Lord. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I appreciate all of the support and the love you guys show me week in and week out. We are slowly, or should I say quickly, approaching 100,000 subscribers. And we'll be having a nice little celebration. I'm going to have an in-person event. I've not set the date yet, but I may not have that until May because my travel calendar is starting to fill up, and it's going to be hard for me to pick a day to do that in March. It's just not enough time. So I may push that till May. I'm not sure. But anyway, I just want to let you guys know that I'm grateful that you tune in and listen to me every single week. And I will be chopping up this live stream into shorter segments so that if you missed the earlier part, you can just wait for the segment to be released so you can just watch the part that you wanted to watch. And until next time, you guys, grace and peace.